last week and from this week, as well as the slides from last week and this week are going to be shared out hopefully later today. The slides will be shared out. The video will be uploaded to YouTube and a link will be shared out when that is ready. And that will be a collaboration between YouTube and I as far as how quickly we can get that up. But thank you all for being here today. We are moving into part 2 of our conversation on generative AI integrations. And we're talking today about how we're seeing Gen AI integrated into careers, into work, into job seeking, into hiring processes. How is this integration of Gen AI showing up for us in what is, of course, one of the most important topics, work, right? So this is, the same as last time, just framing our series here. We're asking, are we moving into an online future where Gen AI is unavoidable? Today, we're looking at the integration of Gen AI in professional lives. And last week, we talked a bit about trust, right? How do we trust? How do we evaluate information? And we're still thinking about that. And when we're bringing it into the workplace, I think we're also adding in thoughts about who is responsible? Who is responsible? If we are trusting or if we are being asked to trust Gen AI tools and their outputs in the workplace, who becomes responsible for any mistakes that are made in that, right? So just something to think about. And as well, considering that question, can we opt out? And do we want to opt out? And I think as we get into workplace, some of what we'll look at today is really, how does this change in the workplace? Does it change in the workplace? You know, if a manager, a supervisor, a boss is saying that's the technology, use it, what happens to our choice? What happens to our freedom there? And as always, I don't have the answers. Hoping one of you does. And I think you all do have very good points and very good perspectives. And when it comes to this topic overall, we're all just getting through it together. As always, excited to see folks interested in it and in the room. All right. Agenda here today, slightly similar. We're going to look at some common integrations that are already happening. We'll look through some scenarios in a variety of risk and just ask questions, hoping we can be quite discussion-based today with the folks in the room. And I will be sure to be repeating what is said online and what is said in the room so everyone can be engaged, kind of evaluating those risks, those benefits, ethics, and accountability through these conversations. Once again, not here to say advocacy, let's use these tools, let's ban these tools, hoping that we're coming together in a safe place for discussion and critical thinking. All right, we have a interactive for you today. I'll leave it up here for you. You can do QR or you can type it in. QR is a little easier, yeah. Folks on... No, and it's not going to be open yet. I'll have to click away real quick to open this up for us. And there we go. I see one person in. Folks online, and I can, instead of being a silly goose, I can just copy that in for you as well. All right, we got 2 in here. I'm thinking it might be.
Are you ready to show up on my phone?
Not showing up on your phone yet?
It's almost there. I'm waiting for it to show up on my computer.
Lots of hearts, thank you.
All
right, Laura, are you able to join? Give me a thumbs up or a...
Yeah, I'm in. Sorry.
Okay,
yeah.
Perfect. Gotcha.
Yep.
Okay, I see all 3 of you in here. All righty, let us begin. So here's the question. Have you used it at work or while applying to jobs? Have you used generative AI either integrated into something like Gmail or Outlook Or in job seeking, maybe just opening it up. We are talking integrations, but with job seeking, we're also kind of looking at overall use. And I'm seeing here, yes, at work. It looks like 2 folks have used it at work. Yes, in job seeking. There is a yes, both option and a no, never option. Would anyone like to share their experience or any context for their answer here?
So I guess I'm the yes in job seeking. I've been using AI to kind of tailor like I import my LinkedIn data to a chat GPT bot, and then it helps me determine what skill sets need to be higher at the top of my skill, and things that I need to highlight in order to try to, net the recruiters that are looking, to hire and everything. And then once I get into a job, I'm sure I'll be using Gen AI as basically an assistant, within that role, whatever I get.
Absolutely. And so Laura said, in job seeking, looking at, and I find a really interesting use case, taking what you already have, like your LinkedIn profile, uploading that, maybe uploading the job description, and then asking for advice to tailor your resume or tailor your cover letter to that. Hopefully I got that correct, Laura. And then thinking forward that in the job, using it as like an assistant. Yeah, absolutely. Would you like to share any? You don't have to, but if you have any context, you can share.
In a job, working in Amazon specifically.
Yeah.
Everything was automated for AI.
So for those in the chat, working at Amazon here in the room, everything was automated for AI. Yeah.
I had to use it just to sign in.
Use it just to sign in. And I think you mentioned even like the forklifts were, yeah, the forklifts drive themselves. And did you trust the forklift that drove itself?
No.
No. No, I wouldn't trust the forklift that drove itself either. Greg had said here, yes, both actually. I guess both actually. Yeah, that option probably should have been made more obvious. Using it for work, creating a proposal for a work contract as well. Yeah. I can say as well, I've used it for both, in both situations, both at work and while applying to jobs. At work, I like to use it to change the tone of emails so that I don't have to think too much about my tone while I'm typing my emails. And then I can see if I can get that cleaned up a little bit, as well as some other kind of technical uses. Recently, I had the experience, and we'll bring it up later here, but I recently had the experience of an interview that was me talking to AI talking to me, and AI asking me questions and me responding. And that was very jarring way to have an interview. So that's something I was thinking about with this topic as well, things that we might see moving forward. And disclaimer, that was for an AI related role. So there was it was really hard. Remote interviews, I think, were hard for me to get used to in the first place. Talking to there was no name and no face. And so talking to a disembodied voice, getting no feedback whatsoever was quite a different way to interview than I had been used to. They did give you 3 tries and I needed them. Yeah, Uncanny Valley for sure. Okay, so we've all seen it. We've all used it. And again, we're not making any judgment calls here. And we're thinking about, is this unavoidable, right? Are we moving into a future where maybe we miss out on opportunities when other job applicants have run their resume or run their cover letter through AI for advice on that, right? These are the sorts of questions we're here to think about, and no answers on any. How about pressure? I'm interested in whether we felt pressure in a workplace setting. Has there ever been a situation where perhaps at Amazon it was beyond pressure?
Yeah, because I had to use it.
Yeah,
just to open a door.
Just to open a door, you had no choice. If you wanted a job, if you wanted to get paid, you had to use it. And I'm interested, was that on your personal device there at Amazon?
This one, yes.
So your employer required you, in order to enter the building, they required you to download something to your phone.
A to Z.
the A to Z app. Allegedly, I don't know if Amazon will be listening here, if any NDAs were involved.
There's no ideas.
No NDAs. Okay, we're good to go. Yeah, so
Expired.
how did you feel about that? Did you feel like if you said no, you wouldn't have a job there?
I wouldn't be able to do anything on the dock because
You wouldn't, yeah.
I have to turn on all the equipment when I walk in.
Yeah, you wouldn't be able to do your job
Yeah.
without downloading that. Yeah. On AHA slides, we have, it looks like 2 yeses, 1 sometimes. And in the chat, Greg, no pressure directly. Sometimes colleagues will share how they're using it. There's an indirect pressure to stay relevant and culturally connected. Absolutely. Absolutely. What happens if a coworker or a colleague is getting their work done, quote unquote, more quickly, right? Does that cause any pressure, indirectly, right? And I think in a lot of workplaces, things are very indirect. Laura or anyone else in the online, would you like to share any more context about pressure or lack thereof, or anything in regards to this question?
Well, and I've touched on this in previous webinars before. It's a tool, right? And it's a very powerful tool. And either you learn how to use the tool correctly and efficiently and in a responsible manner, right? Or
Yep.
you lag behind,
Yeah.
it's the same thing with I akin it to nuclear weapons, kind of,
Yeah.
but this is more on a individual scale than a
You're like mutually
national.
assured destruction.
Yeah, exactly. And it's who can put out the most, product or be the most efficient employee. And it's going to be the employees that utilize GenAI chatbots as assistants to get that work done that are going to dominate the workplace in the future. So it's one of those things where you learn to use it correctly or you just kind of fall in line,
Yeah. So Laura was talking about that kind of, I said mutually assured destruction, right? Were you able to hear?
Yeah.
You could hear. Okay, cool. That saves me a lot of time. Absolutely, Laura. I think you're bringing up a lot of things that I personally think about just in regards to how we define work in our culture and our society, as far as efficiency, as far as productivity. And I mentioned, I think last week, there's a tiny little bit of hope in my mind that's like AI is maybe going to highlight these inequities and that we already face and maybe bring those to the surface. And maybe we could move into a future where things like productivity and efficiency aren't the primary form of evaluating somebody's work. But that's the optimist in me, which is unfortunately just a small part.
Things I don't like about AI is it's tracking my performance.
It's tracking your performance. Yeah. It's creating a record. Yeah.
I have to go in and physically correct it every time.
Yeah.
Make sure they don't write me up for some reason.
So on the job, it's tracking it. And if it gets it wrong, thank you for bringing that up. I think that speaks to this question of responsibility. What if it's wrong? AI is tracking my performance on the job and it's not correct. And now I have to go and I have to advocate for myself against a machine. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and that
Considering
brings
the
up,
person that wrote the software, so I can scroll up them.
Yeah. And Laura was saying something there.
I mean, this goes back into like the scientific theory of economics, the original form of capitalism where they did the motion capture to figure out how a man can shovel, 11 tons of coal in a day, but the result of that was the man broke his body. And the problem with these systems is they do not account for the human condition. They account for pure efficiency all the time with no resistance and only perfectly run scenarios all the time, and that's not what humanity is.
Yeah, absolutely. I think these are hugely important points in conversations to be having. Yeah, as Greg says sarcastically, if we don't have to think about efficiency, how will people continue to exploit? big questions. I think we could dedicate a whole workshop to this topic. Thank you for being open to sharing your experiences and your thoughts on it. I do want to move to the next one and just some initial thoughts. If you want to throw some in here, and maybe these are the initial thoughts, maybe we've kind of already talked about them, like prioritizing efficiency over humanity, right? Optimization. I know we had some kind of interesting and leaning more towards the feeling a little scared or feeling a little apprehensive last week. So I'd expect we're similar today from what we've talked about. Yeah, Greg, I watch too much Star Trek, and although I'm kind of a pessimist at heart, I just dream of that Star Trek utopia. Crutch, very interesting. Cut corners, yep. Tentatively helpful. Future generations, yeah. What is this? If we're having this conversation now in 2026, what's that going to look like for my 2.5-year-old nephew when he enters the workforce, or babies that aren't even here yet, or your kids? Being so selfish, you're only talking about myself. Authenticity issues. I hope we get some time to chat about that. Yeah. And feel free to share more in the meeting chat if you wanted to share more context. Bot to bot. Are we in dead internet? Troubled. Uneasy. Yeah. I share those feelings. Yeah. Feeling maybe a little bit irritated. Yeah. Understandable. Performance monitor. I think that's a great point. Yeah, thank you for being here and sharing your lived experience with one of the biggest, right? Amazon. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, thank you. Job killer. On that really positive note, it's scary.
It's true,
It is.
because I
Yeah.
noticed all the HR
Yeah.
people on Amazon's site physically is
Mhm.
gone.
HR is gone at Amazon. They're being replaced. Yeah.
Luckily, I know the person, the HR person, so I don't have to tell them.
You can go straight to them.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have a few resources in here. I think that might speak a little bit to this, to what we've talked about as far as impact on jobs, or how we're seeing it in the hiring process, how we're seeing it in different careers, things like authenticity. Laura said in the chat, a friend who's a release manager at Zoom, who said his coworkers are getting laid off left and right. Yeah. That's over here, Amazon here too.
Not in the warehouses necessarily, mostly on the higher end positions like
Mostly.
corporate.
Yeah. The people who are mostly at a computer, maybe. Yeah. And Greg is wondering about deviance from the norm, how AI may just reinforce norms. Yeah, including unhealthy ones. If someone wants to radically change anything, they might be prevented. Yeah. I'm getting some sense of like a surveillance in there as well, like as you talked about, there being kind of a record. If we're thinking more radically, how could that be prevented?
There is groups on the internet right now creating programs to help keep information off of AI,
Yeah,
but I will not name names for obvious reasons.
yeah. So it sounds like there's some groups online that are maybe doing some programs that could protect. Yeah.
But you have to pay for it.
But you have to pay for it. And that's, I know I've say it all the time in these workshops, but there's just so many layers to this when we get into that as well, like barriers, and like what's the word, economic barriers of payment. All right, thank you all for sharing. So I think we have I'm going to go back to the presentation now. I do want to get into some of the scenarios and hear more. I think we have kind of covered this as far as where we've seen it. Where is GenAI being integrated into workplaces and job seeking? But I do have some links for beyond what you have seen yourself. I do have some links here. I'll go through these pretty quickly, just to point out in my research for this workshop where I was seeing it come up. So in integration, really speaking specifically to the topic of integration of like, hey, you are at work and your work email is Gmail, and now it's integrated. It's there. It lives in there, right? Your email is Outlook. It is integrated. It lives in there. PowerPoint, even just doing my PowerPoint presentation here. Let's see if I go home, it's right there, Copilot, right? It is integrated into it. I can click on Copilot, and I tried it out for one of the previous ones to test it out for you today. And it is right in there, and it asks you, it gives you some suggestions of questions to ask about this slide, or you can message it and say, summarize this slide. It's there, it's integrated. And Greg's pointed out some platforms still do have opt-outs, but those all seem dwindling. I think this summary is actually quite hilarious because it's quite a bit longer than the slide itself. And that's what I found, if you can see it on the left here. That's what I found on the other one too. So some summary is a bit longer.
Specifically with Microsoft's
Mhm.
software license agreement, I
Yeah.
did look this up. It actually says you have, when you accept this agreement, you agree to be part of the Copilot program and
Part of the
gathering
program.
data.
And gathering data, right? And gathering data. There's so much to think about. There's so much to talk about. Yeah. What are they doing with that data, right? What do I need to be thinking about then to maintain privacy, especially if I'm working in a career like medicine, like law, like finance, insurance, so many careers, right? So many places. Yeah. All right, so feel free to click through these links. It gives you more details on exactly how these integrations are happening. They're coming from the organization itself. So like these Gmail ones, that's Google talking about their Gmail. So they're of course going to be having a more positive spin on it. But if you want to see kind of what is going on there, it's in almost all the Workspaces apps. Microsoft Office, we're seeing it on the web browser right now. I don't know if others are seeing it like on the desktop version, but definitely on the web
You
browser.
can turn it off on Windows itself,
Yeah,
not necessarily. Well, I've had it recently just come back in an update.
just hit updates and it pops up, yeah,
Yeah.
and we just have to agree. And Adobe Tools, Adobe AI Assistant, and I looking here about that integration and about the reality that so many of our jobs, so many careers, or job seeking, if you're writing a resume, rely on these tools, right? We're using these tools. How else am I going to write my resume if I am not using Docs or Microsoft Word, right? Yes, there are ways, but generally, these are two of the biggest ones. I also wanted to point out custom GPTs. I think a lot of careers, and maybe if you've seen this in your career, you bring it up with Amazon, just their custom AI tools that they're using. And I think, yeah, there's lots of integrations that are happening
Based off of Alexa.
based off of Alexa. And what about that voice? And where is that data coming from? And are they, yeah.
It actually says, welcome to your station.
Alexa says, welcome to your station when you walk into the Amazon warehouse. I'm getting dystopian vibes. I feel like I'm in a,
Well, it actually does it once you sign in with your phone,
when you sign in with your
in
phone.
the individual
Yeah, station.
sortation state.
Okay, yeah. Yeah. I think it's happening in a lot of places in ways that, we're not seeing until you're in there. So as well as students thinking about what that looks like in the future, what might you walk into your workplace in your area, your professional area and find out. I know it's happening in insurance. I linked in here, I got an email from my undergraduate institution that they now have a custom GPT, Titan GPT, that they're recommending that faculty, staff, students can use. Greg has shared in the last day encountering an integration of popular video game that's designed to replace cooperative gameplay. We have these AI characters, so you never feel alone, was basically the vibe. Cooperative gameplay is hilarious. I love to cooperate with my AI models. Right, not my friends. And I see Laura typing in there too.
Show it to you after, but one of the
Show
games
me
I
after.
started playing was
You saw it in a game as well.
AI.
AI in the game as well. It's everywhere, y'all. It's everywhere. I'm gonna go back to present slideshow from current slide. Interestingly, I'm not getting my. Yeah, my subtitles aren't coming on in this.
You have to go up to the top where your screen recording is.
Oh, usually my PowerPoint does it, but you know what? We're too deep in here now. I will adjust for the recording. I will adjust for the recording. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you. So it's integrated, it's coming in all of these. I also wanted to, again, just add a few more, oh, in the chat here. Laura is talking about the video game. It makes me so sad. Having a hard time finding community. Sometimes the only person I have to talk to, we're outsourcing human connection. It's a real thing, yeah. Therapy, I see a lot out there about folks using or having to use AI as a therapist, maybe not having access. Greg has shared a woman in Japan married, yeah, the relationships with AI. Maybe it's fake, but maybe not. So many apps that are romantic AI bots. Yeah, and even if we're not, even if our marketing profile that they have on us says that we're, you know, married or in a relationship, we're still maybe seeing those, right? What is that maybe saying too? Yeah. See here. Okay. I wanted to give you again just a few more links in here. We're not going to go too deep. Pew in 2025, as far as the question of where is this showing up in careers, 2025, so about a year ago, I think it was about April, 21% of workers said at least some of their work is done with AI. Not the hugest number. I have questions about, you know, how folks felt about reporting that and where we are now, but still a good number. And I'd highly recommend looking into how this might impact your future career, how AI is being integrated or suggested to be integrated in different ways in your future career. So I just pulled a couple articles here, you know, looking into medicine, use in healthcare opportunities, embracing generative AI in clinical medicine. Yeah. Is anyone here in healthcare? I think I know both students in here are not, but I may be wrong. You're going into systems.
Systems administration.
Systems administration.
I can't go into healthcare with that.
You could go into healthcare with that. Yeah. So perhaps, yeah, systems administration of healthcare. I have not seen the pit, Greg.
Some poll with multiple.
One of the
numbers that she can give me
Okay.
if I need.
Nice. Yeah.
One of the running
Right.
themes this season is this new attending physician is obsessed with this GenAI app and is asking all of the student doctors to use it and resident doctors, and it just gets like so many simple things wrong, and then it's like you have to proofread, it's 70% correct, but it's like ends up causing so much harm to all these different people.
Absolutely. That's one of the biggest fears, right? Especially when we're looking at something like medicine. I think I have law here too, causing harm and responsibility. Who is responsible? Is that doctor responsible? Right? Is the person who put in the order responsible? Can we hold the AI responsible? Laura's not familiar with that, has seen treatment denials, maybe in insurance, AI insurance bots. Yeah. Whoo, we're getting into it today. Yeah, that's terrible. That is just terrible. It's really scary. Yeah. Yeah. And I wonder about something like the pit, you know, that sounds like a representation that's raising some of the ethical issues or the risks. But it was quite easy for me to find these articles on medicine. on law as well, it being encouraged, and AI legal writing, how lawyers can work faster. That first article, administrative efficiency, right? Going back to some of those ideas Laura brought up about productivity efficiency. And Laura's used AI chatbots to help me figure out Washington state law for court stuff. And now we're talking about disparity, right? And we're talking about equity. Some folks might be able to access a lawyer and some folks might not.
Actually, speaking of the lawyer's side, my sister,
Mm-hmm.
when she did the interview to be on the jury right now, she's on it now.
On a jury, yeah.
Part of it was on AI before
Okay.
she got into the courthouse.
Uh-huh.
She did some of it in AI at home.
Okay, yeah, so it sounds like a personal experience, a family member who's got jury duty, and part of the.
She's in trial right now.
She's in trial right now, and part of that was done by AI, yeah, to evaluate. Absolutely. And Laura, thank you for bringing that up, because I think, again, to go back to that idea that there's so much to talk about, and we're not saying we should or we shouldn't. It's such a nuanced conversation to have, and I hope we have time to get into some of these scenarios, right? I'm hoping we can bring that out in the discussion. Like, are there layers to this? Are there levels? Is there a difference between having an integrated AI tool in Gmail tailor an email for us, and having an AI bot choose medical treatment, right? Two extremes on that, I think, with those two examples, yes. But it's getting into that middle and figuring that out for ourselves. And again, having that conversation about, can we opt out? Are we going into a future where we can't choose? And how can we think critically, and how can we prepare ourselves to be figuring out where we can draw the lines personally? Hallucinations with legal apps, yep. Yeah. And we're having a conversation in the chat here. I know you can't see, so it's I'm trying to share it out as well. So we're able to solve some issues, right? After trying to spend time on Google and go to AI, and it helped us solve it. And Laura says again, which I know is I think the main point, it's a tool, right? It's the how we use it, right? Okay. For our presentation, I do encourage you to take a look, even just a Google search. I actually found more through Google than through library databases on this topic. I think because we're getting so much more information so quickly about your career, and AI integration or GenAI tools be maybe an area to look into. And I did just want to touch briefly on job seeking, resume and cover letter creation and revision when we have those tools in Google. So for example, here I'm in Google Workspaces, and what if these are my AI tools, and I can say, help me write a resume for a academic librarian. That is my job. Let's see what it does for me. Right. I'm not recommending we do this. Once again, just an example here. And we could then use it to refine. I think my window is not functioning super great right now. Just wanted to do a quick, right? So they had my Gmail already. It's a fake number, but they've given me these different information, and this is my Google Drive. So that is not accurate. Not accurate as well. And I point that out because I do actually have a resume in this Google Drive. So it's interesting to me to see how this has been done. But yeah, right. Using it for a resume in different ways, but they're making it very, very easy to do that. I think good and bad use is what I just did. Maybe don't do that. Some of the ways that we talked about earlier, as far as taking what you already have, maybe using the job posting and asking for suggestions for refinement, things like that. Yeah, I'd be interested in that too, Greg. Right? I know it's the same in the UK. It's like a CV. It looks very different, right? Creation and revision, interview preparation. I do think with those kind of like tools to talk to an AI, maybe you could do a mock interview from anywhere, and that can be a really helpful tool, right?
Bring that up.
Yeah.
My Google Home Assistant, when I was doing an interview, it started popping up going, hey, you want to do a mock interview before you start?
Google Home Assistant heard you and it suggested
Yeah,
you
by
back
the
it.
speaker right up.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Melinda's used it to generate predictable interview questions to prep for a specific role. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, based on the job description. Take the job description, upload, I have an interview. What are some questions that they might ask me? Right. And I think that personal opinion, I think that could be a great use, right? Let's go into, and I'll use that directly to transition into this link that I have here, where we're actually having ChatGPT answer it, right? These are, again, I'd say two different things, right? Helping with interview prep versus ChatGPT, I have an interview, I'm gonna have you listen to the questions, I want you to write a response, and I'm going to read that response. This article calls it artificial intelligence cheating in the asynchronous video interview, right? Personally, I think those are two different things that are going on here. Or doing the same to prep for my court hearings. Yeah, has already suggested it, right? Absolutely. And going back to things like equity, right? Opportunity, having the opportunity to have a coach or have a figure in your life, a family member or a friend who is already in that industry, right? Not everybody has things like that, right? So can an AI LLM fulfill that role and use their experience where maybe other applicants have a parent or a sibling or a friend who serves that role for them? Can this reduce disparity? And then a link here too for generative AI and the job search coming from UC Irvine. So this actually does have some suggestions how this can be helpful. So if you are thinking about this, like I haven't used it and maybe this would help me, I'd recommend clicking that link for some helpful kind of credible, ethical suggestions, responsible suggestions of how we might proceed with that. All right, and then job postings. So just a little bit of data for you. An interesting study from MIT found that 75% of employers chose to use GenAI for job posting. It made them 19% more likely to post a job, but job posts written with AI were 15% less likely to lead to a hire, right? So how do we feel about applying for a job written by AI, about our application being screened through AI, about going through an interview, like I mentioned earlier, where your initial interview, or you mentioned with jury duty, is with AI, right?
The case though, she got accepted.
She got accepted, yeah. What does it mean for the human connection, the authenticity?
Well, she still had to go through the human portion of it, but they were using that to
Yeah.
screen
Using
people on
it to
their,
initially
on
screen
their
it.
work history.
Yeah. Let's get into, and I do have a few policy examples for you here. So these I found, and I'll put on our LibGuide too, as far as what some big hiring companies are saying, their guidelines for AI use for applicants, and then they're also disclosing how they are or are not using AI. Can we trust them? But for these two said that they use an AI tool for parsing CVs to capture and map skills to job requirements. Nevertheless, any decision regarding one's application is taken by a qualified human recruiter. Food for thought. All right, so something to look into here, and I'll add these to our library guide on GenAI. I find it to be quite fascinating. And Laura has said it's almost if AI is used for institutional benefit, it harms people. So if it maybe harms people as far as people lose jobs, but can be used as a powerful tool for individual equality and access, right? So questioning that in institutional level versus that individual level. And thank you for noting that, Greg. Yeah, it's automation like ATS, applicant, what is that? Screening software has been the norm for decades, absolutely. And people find ways to try to find ways to go around that, like putting the whole job posting in white text so that it triggers things. Absolutely. And what are some of the risks? Losing jobs, getting denied, be screened out. Absolutely. Okay. I know I jumped through that and didn't leave a lot of time for discussion because I'm hoping the discussion can come up now. Got some scenarios for you, and I want us to think about these and share what we think in each of them. So drafting or revising an email, like a tool like Gmail, Outlook has this. I have an example one for you here. Here's Gmail. Here's how it looks integrated. If you pay for Google Workspaces, a thank you letter for my job interview. All right. How do we feel about that? Have you done it? Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've done it. I've used this technology.
Google One now, sure.
Oh, yeah, Google One. Yeah, Laura's done it. This is the integration. We used to have that just like predictive text, right? Haven't done it yet, but I type fast. And have we used AI not integrated, but just used AI to help write an email or help modify an email? So not quite the integrated, but just the
I just use my voice function on my AI on my phone.
use voice function on AI on phone. Maybe it's saving time. There's accessibility, things being raised there. Maybe that's easier for some folks. Yeah. Right. And there's things we need to change. Refine is another one here. Formalize, elaborate, shorten. So if you're me, I write really long emails. My colleagues in here have suffered the length of my emails. And they used to be worse. Believe me, they used to be worse before we could do something like shorten. You wouldn't want to work with me at Gonzaga. Those are long emails. So we have some different tools in there. I know that, Greg, I know they are. I'm trying. I am trying. You should have seen them before. What other questions do I have for you here? Do you find it valuable? I'd like to ask this one. Do you notice when you get an email written by GenAI, and does that impact your perception when you receive an email? And I've gotten some written by some no one like my old university, right? Does that impact your perception of the information of the sender? If mom sent you a Christmas email and you could tell it was written by AI, would that change anything for you? No.
So my mom sends me and my family in our group chat AI slop like all the time.
Mom
And it's
does.
just like I'm not going to be rude to my mother, but I'm also like trying not to encourage that behavior. I'm like, all right, yeah, that funny, quote unquote, funny video of that thing that could never happen in real life that I don't actually care at all about. I'm just not going to react to that.
Yeah. Yeah. Laura in the chat has said not through using GPT to refine emails. Good to prevent things you don't want to say. Yeah. Revise emails for clarity or concrete versus flowery language. Absolutely. Absolutely. So this is something, we've done, it sounds like. What about summarizing meeting notes? Like there would be a function here on Teams. Zoom has a function. Has anyone used that or seen that used?
I've seen that used on Amazon when I did
Yeah,
like company-wide meetings.
company-wide meetings, yeah. Did you find it valuable?
Yes, because I didn't have to type it all out.
You didn't have to type it all out yourself. So if you were the note taker for the meeting, yeah.
And it also was set up, the way we had it set up is it also integrated the physical microphone into it.
Yeah, integrated the physical microphone into it. It sounds like some could see it being useful and some folks just type really fast, right? Yeah. And what about privacy? Do we have any thoughts on privacy? Yeah, Melinda, if you're running the meeting, the different roles we have in the meeting, if we might not be able to take notes. What do we think about privacy, consent in this situation, and accuracy as well? Have any thoughts on privacy, consent, or accuracy when it comes to meeting notes being summarized by AI? What if we don't have time to review them and AI said that we said something that we didn't? A mistake in a medical record? Thanks for bringing that up, Melinda. Yeah. Every time I go to the doctor now, they ask me if I consent to have AI summarize the notes. And I think to myself, what if I say no?
It's actually for me yesterday.
Yeah. Experienced that yesterday.
They said it twice. Before.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I don't know about you, but I did feel pressure. I did feel pressure to say that's okay. Right.
But there's also this like kind of reality where usually you have to provide consent at the beginning, but sometimes, especially if the meeting's long, that might be forgotten or in the flow of the conversation or the heat of the moment. Oh, I say this, and then suddenly it's like, oh, I forgot that it was being recorded and or pulled into AI.
So many questions with that, right? Like I think about the insurance. What could potentially be denied for? Maybe I made a joke. Maybe I made a joke, but the AI didn't capture the humor in that because it didn't understand nuance. They can't understand emotion exactly. And now a treatment is being denied because that's in the notes, and AI misrepresented my words.
I've heard some AIs that can do emotional series specifically.
Yeah, can understand like a sarcastic tone of the voice.
And she does it back.
Yeah.
Too.
She does it back as well. And I also think about with like medicine and things like that, are they going to ask me every time? What if my consent changes, right? What if I go back and I say, hey, actually, never mind. Okay. Laura, a friend at Zoom was talking on speakerphone a few months back, caused an entire lockdown on Zoom campus as Alexa heard him talking about guns. Yeah. And did he, you know, what does responsibility look like in that? Sounds like, you know, he was having a chat, assuming that chat was okay, but now the work has shut down for the day. Is his job potentially at risk? Should it be? You know, I don't think so, if that's okay to talk about personal time. Oh, so many questions. And I know we're not going to have time to get through all of these, but I hope it is all right for us to spend a bit more time on the discussion per scenario than try to get through each of them, because I really find this to be, you know, the most important part of these workshops. The social media impact. Laura, are you talking about things like when you go, when like fake profiles and things like that on social media? I've been seeing.
There's that, like the bots that exist on social media, but it's also, if you remember the first episode of Black Mirror with the girl, the woman trying to get to her childhood friend's wedding, and how her social media score, you know, things happened to her and her social media score just kept getting, her social score just kept getting lower and lower and lower and lower. So how long until all of these little things start connecting back to us, you know, and the internet is forever, you know, so.
Yeah. And Greg got that immediately, right? Some of the surveillance systems, social score, the internet is forever. And that echoes what was said in the room here about that being a record of my performance, right? The internet is forever. There's a record of everything I've said to the doctor now. What is that going to mean for me in 30 years, right? I don't know. And I'm a little worried about that.
Specifically with Facebook, they're using these bots you're seeing going around as a way to get more information for voice models.
Bots to get more info for the voice models. So are the bots like trying to get people to talk to them?
Seeing all these fake accounts.
Fake accounts, yeah.
It's using it to gather information.
Yeah.
Everybody on the platform.
If only we could like get all the bots and like trick them into going into like one internet chat room and like lock them in there. Just lock them in there. Shut them away.
Facebook just has to shut it down.
Well, I don't believe Facebook is going to. Multiple, yeah, exactly, Greg. Exactly. Okay, let's see another example. Analyzing report data. This is one with a workplace. There's an integration equals AI in Sheets. I have a lot to say about this integration because I was part of a team that helped create a lot of data to train it. So I did want to throw this one in there just to say that from my experience, we were on a very tight timeline, and I wouldn't necessarily put my full trust in the data that was provided to Google's engineers through that process. It is something that exists where you can now use equals AI in Sheets to create a formula to summarize data, to extract, to analyze data. And with this, I'd really like to see, and Melinda says Copilot and Excel is really useful. And I think to speak personally, yeah, not a fan of Sheets. The shortcuts are all just different too. One thought that I would share personally is there can almost exist a barrier with things like Excel with the formulas themselves. We might know that there's a formula, like there are so many formulas. So something that can cut through that, and you can think to yourself, I think Excel can do this. I just don't know the complex formula to get this done. I think that could be great, right? That could be really useful. Again, to what we're, talking about individual versus institutional. With this example, something like data analysis, I'd be interested in, again, thinking about responsibility for inaccuracies. Let's say we have thousands of rows, right? Thousands of rows, and we've relied on an integrated AI tool to do an analysis, and we need to submit that report to, upper administration. Decisions are going to be made based on this data. So what happens if there's inaccuracies in that data? Do we get to say, oh, it was the LLM that did that? Or do we have to take responsibility for that? And does that change how we do or do not want to engage? Things to think about. I was also thinking about how this could change job responsibilities. Like, was there a time when, or could we move into a future where, because this technology is available and integrated, everyone is expected to be a data analyst?
I'd say when I very first started out at Amazon back like early
Mhm.
2016, 2017.
Yeah.
The warehouse I was in at the time, they didn't have any automation. It was all manual labor.
No automation on manual,
Yeah.
2017.
I got to see it all grow,
Mhm.
convert to an R&D facility for a
Mhm.
while
Yeah,
to help design the equipment.
yeah, you've seen it change.
Yeah, I got to see the whole change and help contribute to it.
Yeah. It's pretty exciting to contribute to, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I want to say again, because I feel like I might have sounded a little negative there in regards to this one. Not my intention, as I say, not trying to advocate for or against. And we'll happily and share that I've found value in this too. Finding the right formula, Excel formula for what I'm doing. And value in maybe not having to rely on not having a barrier. I know I want to do something, but I just don't know how, and maybe I'd have to reach out here or reach out there. Yeah. Okay. I know I'm getting low on time here. I just encourage you to consider the question in regards to your future career or your current career. What integrations beyond what we've talked about here might exist? I'd encourage you to look into that. And thinking about how you feel, right? Excitement or concern, questions of whether we can opt out and what dynamics are at play when we get into the workplace. Job seeking, some different examples here. We've covered all of these already. And I think we've kind of talked into this as well. Where is it helping applicants? Maybe where is it disadvantaging applicants? And just those perceptions of authenticity, right? What happens if AI writes your resume, does your interview, you show up for the first day on the job and you don't know how to do the job, right? Or on the flip side, AI wrote someone else's resume cover letter and did their interview and you were perfect and this was your dream job. So there's lots to consider there. Again, not saying we should use it, we shouldn't use it, but for you yourself as the individual, thinking about ways. I strongly believe there are lots of ways that these tools can help applicants and can help close gaps. Maybe there are ways to disadvantage as well, but perhaps you know, not using them is also a disadvantage. And we just have a few minutes here. I would love to get your feedback on this one, though, if you don't mind. I'm going to actually open it over here. If I can. And copy it into the chat. Because this is kind of that ending discussion question for us here. So we have just a few minutes to wrap it up and get some final thoughts through this. Thank you all for being here. As I said, I know we didn't get through all of the scenarios, but I'm glad we got to have depth of discussion in the ones that we did. Just seeing 2 folks in here now. I've put the link in the chat if you're able to join. To respect your time. I will go. Here it is. Everyone in here has come to both of the workshops. So here's my question for you. After all that we've discussed and learned about, is GenAI unavoidable? Yes. And how do we feel about that? Any thoughts or feelings? You'd care to share now? Again, I know we've discussed quite a bit. Meh. Yeah. I almost want there to be a new word. I feel like I want to go through looking through like old language or like German language or something. I feel like there's a German word out there that could encapsulate the complexity of the emotions that we're feeling towards this better than we have in the English language. Laura, did we have a choice during the development of nuclear weapons or other weapons? We're getting into questions of free will now. Absolutely. And Greg says people can still opt out partially or completely, but we'll have to understand the consequences of doing so or not doing so. And I think if I remember, yep, I think that feeds into it. Do you want to? And what might some of those consequences be? Somewhat not sure.
I think it's kind of similar to opting out of other technologies. For example, I have people in my life who don't have an email, believe it or not.
Don't have an
And
email.
therefore they do not receive my emails, and I send
Yeah.
life updates through email.
Mhm.
Similar with social media. Maybe you don't care about seeing all my selfies, but the people who are connected to me on social media have a greater connection or a more precise connection to that aspect of my life.
Yeah. When
People that don't
you
have certain technology skills might not be able to get specific types of jobs in the context of this person.
yeah.
They could still get other types of jobs, maybe, but not every job is available to them.
Yeah. Great point. I do miss out on a lot of good Greg content not being on Instagram. All right, so somewhat, or maybe we're not totally sure. And I know we're right at time now. Thank you all for coming. These slides will be available. The recording will be available. If you do have thoughts on this last question, thinking to the future, I'd love to hear. You know, we do these every quarter. You can always email me. You can email Greg. You can email Melinda. But if you have thoughts, you have topics that you're interested in, I'm trying this new style of question. I don't know exactly how it's going to work. Hopefully it works for you, but it worked. We would love to hear, you know, your thoughts on these topics, or, you know, a rating, what you would be more interested in as we move forward. Thanks, Melinda. Thank you so much, Laura. And thanks all for you for coming and having these discussions. Thanks, Greg. Thanks, Laura. I hope you can come next quarter too. We're not sure what we're doing, so this poll will help us kind of, you know, decide the topics, but especially for students who like to come and are thinking about this, we'd love to hear what you'd be interested in, and then we'll do the research, we'll put it together, we'll invite you.
Thank
I'm
you.
gonna go ahead and stop recording now.